the Rockets came out and said that John Wall and them are working on the trade to get out of Houston. He has 2 years and over $90 million left on his deal. And the Rockets have told John Wall, listen, you can show up for training camp, that's fine, but we don't want you to play in the regular season. So John Wall,
You're gonna call from the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So John Wall is not going to play one game in the regular season for Houston, regardless if he's traded or not. Which means he could make $40 million for doing nothing, not even playing or doing his job. What teams do you think can use John Wall right now on their roster? And what does this mean for Houston, for Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green's development? What do you think it means? I'll start with you, Ruth.
Well, for starters, shout out to Houston, because they're showing that they care about their players. They did that with Boogie, too. They tried to find him a destination. Same thing with Harden. They came to an agreement that they'll find him the place he wants to go to. And then with John Wall, telling him he doesn't want to buy out. And they said they'll find the best thing available for you. We're going to work with you to get a trade. So shout out to organizations that do that. Kevin Porter Jr. will be the one this year, so I think that's great. You get your young guys in. Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green is going to be the backcourt for the next 10-plus years for these guys, hopefully. So this is great. Steven Silas starts with his young guys. He gets to groom them, and, they get to develop, and that's great for them. Now, for John Wall, it's tricky because for the question, what teams can use him, I'm sure a lot of teams can use him, but cap-wise, how does it work? You know what I'm saying? I think cap-wise, probably the Clippers are the only team. I think John Wall is better than Bledsoe. I think he'd be great for them. He looks like he wants to be on a contender. But for teams that could use him, obviously the Clippers could have used him. The Bucks could have used him. He would have been great. Miami could have used him. I think that would have been a great addition for them. But I think ultimately the Clippers are probably the lone playoff team that can make a move for him. I'm thinking maybe.
Quick question. Reggie Jackson's emergence, I'm saying, but his emergence, it wouldn't allow you to lean a little bit to giving Reggie a little bit more opportunity? Because once you bring in John Wall, obviously, he loses that.
Loses what?
That opportunity.
I don't think so, because I think Reggie still starts.
I think he still starts, but John Wall's not coming off the bench.
John Wall is going to come
off the bench, yeah.
At this point in his career, I think he knows I think he's okay with anything.
He was solid on the Rockets last season.
I think he's okay with anything as long as it's playing on a contender.
Now, because the team I could see him going to would be, you mentioned Cap, obviously it would be difficult. If he were to go to the Celtics, he would probably start.
Over Smart?
He would.
He would. But that's why I asked.
I think they're pretty dedicated to Smart at the one.
But they've had Kemba or Smart starting. Who would you rather?
Which Kemba am I getting?
Let's say this season, right? Who would you rather have?
Kemba.
The thing is, I would personally rather Smart for my team. But ultimately, for what he's done already as that six-man role, I'm cool with starting Kemba.
Right.
Now, similarly, John Wall coming in, I think John Wall probably could start. It's John Wall and Kemba Walker. At this point in time, it's splitting hairs. I don't know. I probably lean Kemba because he's healthier, but John Wall is a better basketball player in my opinion.
Okay.
So regardless of that, I think John Wall would fit the Celtics as opposed to the Clippers, just because you add another scorer to the Celtics. Obviously, they could use more scoring outside of Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Marcus Smart isn't as consistent as a scorer as John Wall has been. And then to the Clippers now, Reggie Jackson emerged this postseason. Like, he really showed the Clippers that he could be a solid piece for them for a few years to come now. Kawhi's not going to be there.
Which is why I think they need John Wall. A 20-9 guy. He's better than Bledsoe by far.
No, he is better than Bledsoe.
And I think they need another guy like that.
But we know Marcus Morris has the ability to score. He's a solid scoring option. Paul George obviously is going to be the primary ball scorer on this team. Reggie Jackson showed he could be a number 2 option on a winning team. He won some games. It was close between the Suns, of course, but he played a huge part in that Utah series and them getting past Utah. So I don't know if I would step on Reggie's toes and bringing in another point guard to, squabble minutes with, but I feel it makes a little bit more sense given the fact that Marcus has already understood his role on the Celtics.
I agree with that, but the Clippers were one of my teams that I had. I also had Boston because I think he would be a good fit. He would be a true point guard for Boston with Tatum and Brown and Horford there. That would be a pretty solid team.
You think Horford wouldn't go, though, to fill the cap?
True.
Oh, that's right. That's true.
And they do have Moses Brown.
I'm thinking about
No,
this.
Moses Brown is on Dallas.
I forgot they moved him.
I'm thinking about this as a buyout option.
Okay.
And Houston has said they don't want to buy out John Wall, and I understand it. But I don't think any team is going to trade for John Wall given his contract.
For sure.
Another team I thought about was Philly.
Interesting.
I think Philly, if they lose Ben Simmons, they need a point guard, and John Wall could play well with Joel Embiid if he stays healthy. But, would Philly do a trade of trading Ben Simmons and for John Wall and some more pieces?
Let me ask you a question.
Because Eric Gordon, maybe John Wall, Eric Gordon, and Daniel House or something like that.
Do you think Bledsoe and Kennard is enough? That's
no.
40 mil right there.
No.
Well, 31. That's 31
To get
mil.
him, you're saying?
To get John Wall.
Man, I don't think so.
For
I
me
think John Wall's a little, but at this point, I think Houston just wants to get rid of John Wall.
Yeah.
That's why I feel
Bledsoe's on a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Kennard's a good player.
the best option would be a buyout for the Rockets as a whole. Well, probably not the best option for the Rockets because obviously you want to get that cap off your team. But getting him off your team would probably be the best option because now you commit to the young guys.
Yep.
Christian Wood becomes the focal point of this offense. He's able to finally get the keys to be probably the leader, the primary best player on the team. With guys like KPJ now, like you mentioned, who's going to have the keys to facilitate the offense however he pleases. After last season, I have more than enough confidence he can do so. And Jalen Green now is going to have more opportunity to score the basketball. I just love the idea of committing to the young guys and thinking more long-term in this sense because John Wall is not going to benefit these guys' development as opposed to them, grinding it out together and trying to learn through these years to come.
I think Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be in a great situation now that John Wall is not there. He is by far the point guard of this team.
Yeah.
Something in your eye?
Yeah.
I think he's by far the point guard of this team. There's no doubt about it. And last year he averaged 17 and 7 doing just that. So now getting John Wall off the team and him being able to flourish in that role, I think he'll be very good in it.
Sure.
Could we see KPJ win Most Improved Player? I think
it's possible.
It's in the cards. It could happen. Definitely behind RJ Barrett in that sense, but it could happen if he's there. So Kevin Porter Jr., I think this is great for the young guys. Not even just KPJ and Jalen Green, but Josh Christopher, who they just drafted.
Defensive.
Needs minutes as well. So, I think John Wall is, if he doesn't get traded, he'll get bought out. And if it's not one of those, he'll just sit out and make all the money. Eric Gordon is the name to watch for because I think Eric Gordon, they can actually trade for a pick or two or some good pieces.
Yep.
Eric Gordon could be flipped. He's a good player still, and he would help out a contender a ton. But this is good for Houston, just sticking to their young guys and investing in them for the future.
There's really a high chance he sits the whole year and just makes 44.
I don't want to see him sit, truthfully.
And the thing is, Houston's okay with that.
I know, which is
fine.
Which is fine with me, obviously, but at the same time, it's better to see John Wall play.
Yeah.